Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Steve Schlintz, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Dental Practice Freedom Radio. And this episode is going to be a little bit different because I'm actually recording it on Facebook Live I'm audio recording it, and it'll be on the podcast before too long. I've never done this before. I have no idea how it's going to go. So if you guys end up watching this live as I'm going through it on Facebook or whatever platform you're watching it from, I'm not going to be able to see your comments because I'm actually recording a podcast episode, and it should be a lot of fun. And I thought this would be a great episode to actually go live on Facebook because it's kind of a memoir for me over the last 5 years of coaching and what I've learned and what I've been able to help other dentists do. And most importantly, how I've grown and what I think is probably the most important thing I've learned being not just a dentist, but also a coach in the last 5 years. And so you might be asking, well, what is that? And what I have found is that as I grow, my awareness grows. And if you were to ask me what the most important thing for a dentist is to be successful, it is awareness. Awareness of oneself, awareness of one's environment, awareness of knowledge. It's just an overall level of awareness. And on the next episode, obviously, if you guys are watching it live, I'm not going to do another one live on Facebook, at least not yet. But I'm going to be talking about the role of mentors and how important that is, but how important it is for you to be unique in yourself. And one thing I remember is when I was being trained as a consultant for Bob Proctor, they talked a lot about levels of awareness. They talked about 7 different levels of awareness, and they had a diagram about this little circle in the center, and as you grow, this level of awareness grows. And it reminded me a lot of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and how you grow your circle of competence. And Warren Buffett talked about growing your circle of competence. And so all of these things kind of come together, and they're laced together. But it all boiled down to awareness. Bob Proctor talked about as your awareness grows, your ability to do things will also grow because you become aware of things you weren't aware of before. And so one of the things that I always tell my clients is go read the same book literally over and over and over again. And as you do it during different times, you'll understand that your level of awareness will grow. If you look behind me, there's probably 40 books on the bookshelf right here. Most of them are personal growth and development books, or wealth accumulation books, or biographies of people that I look up to, like other side, Einstein over here. You will read these books, and when you read them the second time, you don't see something in the book that wasn't there. You actually see something in yourself that wasn't there. And you go, wow, how did that happen? Your awareness grew. Whether subconsciously or consciously, you are expanding your level of awareness. And I remember the first time I ever read Sherlock Holmes. So those of you who know me on a personal level know that I have this weird fascination with Sherlock Holmes. And I remember the first time I read a Sherlock Holmes book. It was 3rd grade. My teacher was Mrs. Wilson. And I remember the classroom. I was joking that you remember your elementary school teachers way more than you remember your middle and high school teachers, most likely, because you spent all day with them. They were in very formative parts of your life. And so one of the things that we had to do for Mrs. Wilson's class was read a book of our choosing. And we had all these different books that we could choose from. And I chose Sherlock Holmes, of all things, as a 3rd grader. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm probably 9 at the time, 8, I don't know. And I'm reading this book, and it deeply fascinated me. It was The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. It was the first stories written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And those of you who have read Sherlock Holmes books would understand that it's really not intended for a 3rd grade reader. So I'm reading it, and I'm fascinated by it, but I didn't understand almost any of the book. I knew the general premise. I knew that Professor Moriarty was Sherlock Holmes' kind of arch rival. And the last story, as I'm reading this book, the last story here is Sherlock Holmes falling over a cliff with Professor Moriarty. Reichenbach falls. And who knows what happens after that. Right? So I understood the gist of it, but I really didn't understand the stories in any detail. Now, I didn't read Sherlock Holmes consistently all the time, but what happened is I went back and read it again, and this was when I was in high school. Now, obviously, when I read it in high school, it was totally different than when I read it as a third grader. The level of awareness in me had developed. I have a better appreciation for vocabulary and context and storylines and what I was actually reading. Now, that material was in the book the entire time, but my level of awareness had grown to the point of understanding it. And so when I recommend to any clients, go ahead and read Think and Grow Rich, go ahead and read Psycho-Cybernetics, go ahead and read The Science of Getting Rich, I tell clients, read it over and over and over again. Why? It's not to bore you. It's so that you can see the expansion and the growth of your awareness as you learn that material. And so if you read, for example, this was a couple of years ago, actually 4 years ago, I read Think and Grow Rich in 30 days, I think I read it 7 times, and I listened to it 3 times through audiobook in its entirety, 10 times in 30 days. And what I was doing was planting those ideas into my subconscious mind. And every time I'd read it, I'd pick something new up that I didn't see before. That's expanding awareness as I grow. As a dentist, I talk a lot about this idea of becoming a master of your craft. And what that means is I don't necessarily recommend you take every continuing education course out there. What I recommend is you take ones that fascinate you and you feel you could grow your practice around and study it and study it and study it and study it. And as you study material, your level of awareness will expand. And as it expands, you'll continue to grow and find solutions to problems that you didn't think of before, because that awareness allows you to see opportunities that have always been there. You just weren't aware of it, right? If we look at technology today and things that we do today, I want you to think about what I'm currently doing, which is I'm recording a podcast episode, but I'm doing a video and I can stream it live to thousands of people. And out of thousands of people, literally right now, one person is watching it. But somebody had to study concepts of science long enough to understand that what we're currently doing in our environment is possible. We just weren't aware of how to do it before. But as our conscious level of awareness grows, we see opportunities that have always been there. We just tap into them. And so as you go as a dentist, you're in your practice. You're trying to work on goals in your practice. You're trying to work on your ability to achieve increased practice profitability, case acceptance, understanding how to work with your team better. The materials you have and have been studying, I encourage you to go back and read the books that have been influential for you and start to take the goals that you've set, bring it back to the books that you're reading, the materials, the courses that you're studying, and say, how do I, as I go through this again, how do I expand my level of awareness to see opportunities to help me achieve these goals that I did not see before? Very important. And so as you guys are watching this live, if you liked what you saw, I encourage you to leave a comment, leave a review, do whatever. If you are listening to this on the podcast, as always, if you guys get benefit and value from what it is that I'm doing, I think this is episode 166 now. I encourage you to leave a review rating on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. I think we're now on Audible. That would mean the world to me. And as always, I'm going to leave a link in the comments below on Facebook and also in the podcast description. If you guys are looking to expand your level of awareness, or maybe you've read some of the books that I've recommended you read, and maybe you've listened to the podcast before, but you're kind of stuck and you're ready to get to the next level, I encourage you to actually set up a complimentary coaching call with me. We can deep dive into your practice, see where you're at, see where you want to go, see how I can help you, and see if it's a good fit. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for those who have watched live. on Facebook. And as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in to the podcast, and I'll see you at the next episode. Peace.